right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of KNA Football. We're here in what we have just calculated to be season 4. So kicking it off with that. Um, if you guys didn't see, we just wrapped up season 3 with a punishment video for me. Went on a date with a great teddy bear at the ever wonderful Hartville Kitchen. So if you didn't see that yet, make sure you go check it out on our YouTube channel. Things are going to be a little exciting this year. We're facing a couple new challenges. It really wouldn't be KNA football if we didn't have our fair share of tumultuous events. So yet again, I'm here at school. Kadin's at home, but this time Debbie has moved to school as well. Debbie is now at Liberty University, so we're seeing, we're all very, very online now. So excited to see how that works. Obviously, at the end of last season, Kadin decided to flee the country for a short amount of time, so that ended great. So we'll see what this season brings. Really excited. Today, we'll be talking about fantasy football. We love this episode. Really love getting into it. I'm going to talk a lot about some sleepers, maybe some guys to avoid. Should be a lot of fun. Welcome to another episode of KNA Football. All right, Kadin, welcome back. How have you been?
Dude, this is really weird that we're starting up the podcast again. Because like you said, it's been like towards the end of the regular season last year since I filmed one. Because then the entire playoffs I was gone, and you had people step in and do it with you, and sometimes did it by yourself. And so this is crazy that we're back again. But I am super excited to do this again, and also to do just get ready to watch some football. We're 2 weeks away from the opening Sunday, but
Yeah.
with that means that a lot of people right now are doing their fantasy football drafts. I have like one of my big drafts tonight actually, and so with that, he joined us in an episode last year. Actually, I think he only joined me. I think it was when you were hospitalized with pneumonia. But I like to dub him as the fantasy expert because he's one of my cousins. We go on our family vacations, and he knows a lot about fantasy football. And he's always sitting there, and he's always telling me, try to trade for this guy, try to do this. And last year, he literally worked and told me, hey, go draft this guy. It was right after my rookie draft in my dynasty league. Ended up being Jaden Daniels. Ended up being an incredible player for me. So I like to dub him the fantasy expert, and we're like, you know what? Let's have the fantasy expert on our fantasy episode of the podcast. I think that just makes a lot of sense. So, Debbie, are we able to pull him in here? We have Quinton back on the episode. He was actually, if you watch the not the Waffle House episode, that never happened. If you watch the Hartville Kitchen Bear episode, Quinton is in the opening scene of that because you predicted last year. We talked about the punishment a little bit, and you said, "Oh, are you guys going to go to the Hartville Kitchen because is that fancy enough for you guys?" And that actually is the intro clip of the video.
But, oh wow, I didn't even know that. I'm gonna have to go give it a watch then.
It's a high honor, I know.
Cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me back on, and yeah, it's a good time of the year, exciting time. You have your draft later today, Kadin. I got my draft next Sunday, and yeah. It's the preseason's over officially, and we're getting the roster cuts, so it's about to get a lot more real in the next coming days.
This is the time of the year where every team is excited and every team is like, we have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Like me as a Panthers fan, I'm like, I'm optimistic for the season, and then we'll play about 5 games, and then it's like, okay, I'm ready for the season to be over. But this time of the year is where everyone's excited and everyone has a chance and is excited for the season to start. So yeah, Austin, before we get into this, what's your optimism for going into this?
Man. My optimism heading into the year is I think the Browns will win 5 games. Win 5 games. 5 games is my optimism. I'm super optimistic to see Shedeur Sanders out there, the future GOAT of the NFL. I know deep down in my heart that he will get to start at some point in this year, and he definitely won't get cut. So I'm really excited for the year, really excited for football to be back.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see if you pick Shedeur as one of your players to draft. I sure hope you did not. But so how this is gonna work is we each had deemed as sleepers or good value picks or players that we are trying to target in drafts. Players that with players that we're trying to avoid. Players that maybe are going a little bit too high. Or I think Austin, the way that this works best is if we say quarterback, each say our quarterback, and then running back. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Cool.
That works, yeah.
Austin, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
So, for my quarterback sleeper, he was a rookie last year. Okay, so clearly, I'm pretty optimistic about him. He played a lot better than I thought he would. I thought last year a couple games, and I was really, really happy with how he performed. So I was really happy with how he performed. The team certainly exceeded my expectations. Drake May. I think that he's not going to go super high in a lot of drafts, but I'm pretty high. But if you end up seeing him down there, especially if you're in a 2 quarterback,
head coach and Mike Vrabel, they've retooled their offensive line, and now he has a lot better receiving digs than he was 5 or 10 years ago. But he's still much better than what Drake May was thrown to last year. Vrabel's a pretty good coach, and I think he can get a lot out of him. So I agree.
Well, as far as a pick for a late round good value pick at quarterback and have that added to the floor of your quarterback position. And line, in addition to the running back room, and Travion Henderson. I think he's electric out of Washington State. And so, yeah, I think that, and then they just have so many other and if he has a ton of playmakers around him, he should only be better. And he only got a little taste, like Josh McDaniels is back for like the 15th time to the Patriots as their OC. I think they will, like you said, Vrabel's a good coach too. So I think that he could.
And we're not sure. I don't know what your guys. The odds are they could be trailing a decent amount of games this year where they're throwing to come back into the game. Alright. Quinton, you want to go ahead next? I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. I just want to give a little, I guess, for the players I chose, and when you're talking about values, it's all about position. So essentially, it's guys who won't be drafted here in the next year's draft here. So, and it's all that is very reactionary, right? So, I mean, guys later that I can give you examples of they really love this year. Not necessarily that they're bad players, it's just that people get burned by them and then they at a high draft spot, which I understand, but that's why their values this year. So, all that being said, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, so he's going, 11th, 10th, 11th round, and that's pretty late. I mean, right now, overall quarterback 13 off the board, so, he's not even technically, all the ADPs that I'm getting my source from is from Sleeper, which if you don't play you need to get into 2025 because it's the best one. So, here, he's healthy, right? He's healthy coming off last year being injury cut with the addition of George Pickens since he was traded to Dallas. He's got someone there alongside Steve. Honestly, when it was Brandon Cooks was just fine for fantasy. But for CD was affected that way. And so Parsons, is he going to actually sign with the Cowboys? Well, is he gonna have to ship him out for something? But if they do, the defense will definitely suffer. A team that has a very bad defense, especially a quarterback who's a pocket passer, right? Dak's not Jaden Daniels. Doesn't have the greatest line anymore that he used to, but he still is good enough to get it done. So yeah, you have that Parsons aspect too. He'll probably sign. I don't know. I'm not Adam Jeff. Years ago, Dak Prescott coming. So obviously last year he was injured, but the year before that, that was the season that CeeDee Lamb ended up being wide receiver 1 on the entire year. So that's how I think that he's being mispriced and people are forgetting what he did 2 years ago. Healthy, he's added weapons. The Cowboys have added weapons. They actually don't have a very good run game in blue, and they have Miles Sanders. So they have a bunch of just random guys, but with that being second rate, so I think they're going to be forced to throw the ball a lot because I think that's what's going to be working for them for taking Dak Prescott.
I agree with that. Last night, as we were finalizing getting things situated and getting players ready, and I was pretty upset. I was pretty happy he said Dak because I also am agreeing on Dak, but I was like, the addition of George Pickens with the defense at the state where it's going to be, and like you said, a couple years ago when and Brandon Cooks was putting up great numbers, and now you bring in George Pickens, who's one of the best deep ball threats in the league, and plus you talked about as well. And they're playing in a tough division. They're going to play Washington twice. They're going to play Philly twice. They're going to be in game built to run the ball, like you're saying. And they're not. It's not like Dak even has to learn a brand new system either. They're in Dallas, so yeah, I agree with everything you said there. Dak is definitely somebody I'm trying listening because that is one player that I do not want to. It's an auction draft. So like you have a budget and then you draft, and so it's like, okay, I really want to make sure I leave the draft with, because I'm totally happy with him being my quarterback one.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. So,
Yeah, so you were talking about back in the 10th, 11th round. He's not a pocket passer by any means. When I say the name, my sleeper quarterback is Justin Fields from the Jets. He's not good, but one thing that Justin Fields has is he is one of the best runners once looked to pass and then decides to run. He's looking to run is what it seems most of the time. And now he's going to a team, Garrett Wilson. The two of them have a really good chemistry dating back to Ohio State. We saw it 4 years ago now, but we've seen in training camp and we've seen in preseason, they have that connection still built. Now, always the most accurate, but that's okay because we've seen already a lot in preseason. He's looking to run the ball, find runs, or just a broken play that's going to scramble. They don't have the most receivers. A lot of plays might break down, and like, I'm not the most excited going into it. Like, ooh, Justin Fields is my quarterback one. But if he's a player that's really in the draft and say instead of going getting one of these top guys, you loaded up and got more receivers. You got Drake London, you got James Conner at running back, and you got a little bit more value players at the non-onesie positions, and then later in the draft you dip a little bit and get Justin Fields, who doesn't look as attractive as some of these other. He's still going to throw touchdowns, but you're going to get a lot of rushing upside with Justin Fields. And they're a team that we also believe is going to be, I think, their best chance to win games is with Justin Fields' legs. And I don't think Breece Hall is the same Breece Hall as a couple of years ago. Justin Fields is not like he's coming in and learning like a system that he's behind on now. Like he comes in with Aaron Glenn as the head coach, and I think they're just gonna let Justin Fields do what he's comfortable at, do what he's good at, and that's what we've seen in the preseason. Is he's gonna run the ball. So
I was actually really upset when you sent the list of players that I wasn't allowed to touch, because when I saw Justin Fields on the list, I'm like, that sucks, because I wanted to take him because of exactly what you said, like his running upside, what he did 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago in Chicago. It was even 3 years ago now, where like he wasn't even drafted in a lot of leagues, and then he was ending up putting up a billion fantasy points, and everyone picked him up. There was 2 weeks there he was the hottest player picked up off of waivers, and then he played really well in Pittsburgh last year. Obviously benched because of some incentives on trades, and now. Jets. So I was actually really upset that you picked him. A good pick.
Yeah, I think he's got that rushing floor that's going to always help you. He might not turn, he might not throw the ball over the yard, but if he rushes for 80 yards a game and maybe has one score on the ground while only throwing one touchdown, that's still pretty good. That'll help you if he does that. So, yeah, I like the pick.
sweet. I like that world, so it's going to look pretty awkward. So, Austin, do you want to go ahead and give us your running back? Oh. Okay, I think you turned your mic the wrong way. If not, we'll just flip the order. Nah, it sounds like you're just literally whispering in my ear. No, he's not muted. Okay. I'll go ahead and say mine, I guess then. So my running back, who is my running back? Hold on, I wrote this down, and I wrote some other things down with him. Oh, got it. Okay. So this running back, I heard I was a little bit questionable if I should write this down. This guy, you don't have to spend like a top 3-round pick on him, but in the last couple of weeks, we've seen his ADP in the round. In the summer, we see low. You can get a rookie running back pretty late. You can get a lot of rookies very late, and then as it gets closer to the season, and as training camp hype rolls around, and as preseason hype rolls around, and as more people just start drafting, their ADP starts rising. And so that's what happened with Travion Henderson. But I do really think that he's going to be worth it wherever he goes. You can get him right now in around the 5th or 6th round, and that's just continuing to rise. But Travion Henderson is the rookie running back for the New England Patriots, and it was looking like when they drafted him, it was going to be a committee between him and Ramondre Stevenson. But as time has gone on, it's looking more and more like that might only be a 1 or 2 week thing, if that. We know the Patriots are not very fond of Ramondre Stevenson. He struggled the last couple of years, and he's had a huge problem with fumbling the football. He has so many fumbles, and he actually lost his job last year, and they put in Antonio Gibson, and then he got his job back because then Antonio Gibson started fumbling, and so it's like, oh my. So the Patriots are not like they're looking for a replacement. They bring in Travion Henderson, who was so, I mean, maybe a little bit of biasism coming from the Ohio State fans, yes, but he was so good at Ohio State last year. He does not fumble the football, which that's green light for the Patriots. That's all they need right now, someone who can just hold on to the football. But you pair him up with young Drake May. He's going to be great friends with Drake May back there. He's a reliable pass-catching back. We saw that a lot at Ohio State. When you get him the ball in space, he has such good speed, such quick speed to be able to just take like a 5-yard screen and take it 40, 50 yards. We saw it in the very first preseason game on his first touch. He had an 100-yard kickoff return touchdown. And then just the rest of that game, he was breaking off 20-yard run, 20-yard run, 20-yard run. And I think in the last preseason game, he had, or maybe it was the second one, but he had a nice like 25-yard touchdown run. So as time's gone on, we've just seen Travion Henderson is just continuing to get better. And that's why he's continuing to rise in his ADPs. But I truly believe that it's going to be fully Travion Henderson's backfield by week 3, week 4, and then by the end of the season, you're looking at somebody who, yes, you had to spend a little bit more than like a 10th rounder, like so he's not like a late sleeper, but I truly think he's someone that can be up there as a true RB1 that can help you win your league.
Yeah, the cat's out of the bag on Travion Henderson. Everyone and their mother wants him, and they should because he's electric. He reminds me of rookie Jahmyr Gibbs when just he can take all it takes is one touch and he can take it 75 yards to the house. And yeah, we saw that in the preseason, which only is just confirming all of our thoughts. And yeah, since Ramondre is maybe a little low on the totem pole or getting lower every practice, every preseason game, yeah, it's not going to take long for him for that to be his backfield, and I think that's going to happen very quickly. So. I 100% agree.
I was actually kind of mad watching the preseason games because I was like, they need to stop giving him the ball. Because every time he's getting the ball, he's doing stuff with it, and they're like, and all of a sudden, everyone, like you said, everyone's on him now, and it's like, dang, the less they would have given him the ball, the better. The lower you'd be able to get him, the less expensive he'd be in drafts. But
yeah, if he was only fumbling, a couple times and looking really bad, I mean, he might be an 8th-round pick today, but unfortunately, it's gone the complete opposite way. So talent wins out, and yeah, with these rookies coming up each and every year, it feels like it's only a matter of time till they just need a single touch and they can take that veteran's job. So I agree. I can give you my rookie, or not rookie. He is not a rookie. He's actually going into, I think, his 4th or 5th. This might be his 5th year. Or maybe it's his 4th, actually. I don't actually remember. But he's a running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's Travis Etienne. I was trying to go with a guy who, because I could have went with Trayvon Henderson. But like you said, he is kind of skyrocketing. I kind of wanted to go with a guy who might be not everyone's favorite player, or maybe not even someone that a lot of people are interested in at all, which honestly, I was like that at the beginning of the year. But the more I've mock draft and the more I've thought about it, the more I'm kind of intrigued at where he's being drafted. He's being drafted at pick number 85.7 overall. That's his ADP. And he's the 32nd running back off the board. So you're not spending a whole lot for this guy. And this is, if we recall, a guy who literally finished as an RB1 the year before, not last year, obviously, but 2 years ago. And that's why last year he was actually a late first/early second round pick. And people got burned by that. And so now everyone's just OUT out on this guy, which I can't say I blame them. Like I said, I didn't want any part of him. But now after thinking about it, I'll give you a couple reasons why I think I'm kind of in where he's being drafted. So they brought in Liam Cohen, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, as the head coach, and he's bringing his offensive scheme, which I am a Tampa Bay Bucs fan. Liam Cohen is he's very good at doing at running an offense. He's very good at scheming guys open. He's very intelligent that way. And so bringing in that system with Travis Etienne as the supposed lead back. Also, obviously, they have Tank Bigsby there, and they drafted Bashal Tutin out of Virginia Tech, who everyone was getting hot and bothered by, and then he fumbled in his first preseason touch, and that kind of has slowed down a little bit. And so right now it's kind of you're taking your pick between Etienne and Bigsby, which is fine. Etienne's going a little earlier than Bigsby, so if you really, if you don't get Etienne, you can always take your shot on Bigsby. But obviously, the Jags were a mess last year without Trevor Lawrence, which really affected Travis Etienne's production. He had no touchdowns because the Jags were awful. Mac Jones had to start a ton of games. There's a reason they had a top 5 pick. And usually good running backs are on good teams, which not saying the Jaguars are going to make this, Washington Commanders jump like last year. I don't think they will, but I think they could easily compete for 6-7 wins. And I think Etienne can be involved very heavily in the screen game, and Liam Cohen is very good at drawing up the screens. We saw that last year with Bucky Irving coming out of the woodworks, and also Rachaad White. The Bucs had 2 top 24 running backs in Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. And Rachaad was, by the end, Rachaad was more of the receiving back, and Bucky was more of the in between the tackles guy. They both can do both things, but with the Jaguars, Tank Bigsby is really he just kind of projects more as an in-between tackles guy, while Etienne can do that, as well as I think he's the best pass catcher on the team. So if they're down, which they should be down, their defense is still pretty bad, despite drafting Travis Hunter, which hopefully he plays more offense than defense. That's just my personal take. But I think the Jags could be down a lot and be forced to throw and Travis Etienne could PPR his way to way better than RB32 on the season. So that's my take for Travis Etienne.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I was one of those guys last year who got absolutely burned by him, and I was like, I want no part of Travis Etienne this year. I will not be drafting Travis Etienne in any league. And yeah, you saying that all those things, I was like, I never gave that any thought. And it's like tonight, if he's auctioned off for not, he's probably not going to go for that expensive. So it's like, throw a couple bucks at him and see what happens. So
yeah. Why not? Throw $3-4 at him. Could be a boat. You never know.
It's true. Austin, are you back? Is your mic working? No. Dang. Debbie, he's not back. Keep going, Debbie says. Okay, we're going to move to wide receivers, and then if Austin gets back, then he'll go back and say his running back while he catches up. But I'll go ahead and say my wide receiver. I totally thought I'd remember all of these off the dome, but I got to keep looking.
You got to write them down, brother.
I'm glad I did, because, man. Here we go. All right, my wide receiver kind of goes along with Quinton's quarterback. I have George Pickens as my sleeper wide receiver. You can get George Pickens not crazy late, but I think you can get him for a lot later than what he should be going. We've seen George Pickens, and George Pickens has kind of been, for a couple years now, this guy who's been going relatively early-ish, but maybe towards a little bit the middle. People have high hopes and high aspirations for him. He's a wide receiver, one of his team. He's going to do great things, and every year he's just average. He's not wowing anybody. He'll have some absolutely amazing weeks, but then he'll have some weeks where he's going out there and getting 4 points. But I like to attribute that to his quarterback play. He went from Mason Rudolph to Justin Fields, who we talked about as not a great thrower of football. He's a better runner. To Russell Wilson, who was all right, but no, I don't think he's anything that's amazing. And now he goes to Dallas to play with Dak Prescott, who we just talked about why we think Dak is going to have a good season. And now he goes and he's playing with Dak, and he's paired up with CeeDee Lamb. I think this is good for George Pickens to be the wide receiver 2 of a team instead of wide receiver 1. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in football, and so a lot of the defense's focus and attention is going to be on CeeDee Lamb. Whether that be on the deep routes, on the underneath stuff, whatever that is, a lot of the defense is going to be focused on CeeDee Lamb. And so George Pickens, his strength is deep balls. I think he's second in the league in deep balls of, however, I forget what the exact number is, but he's one of the best deep ball wide receivers in the NFL. And Dak is a very good deep ball quarterback. And like we were talking about, just last year or 2 years ago, we saw Brandon Cooks play wide receiver 2 for this exact same Dallas Cowboys team. And he produced. A very, very old and a very, very washed up Brandon Cooks came in and produced. He was a player that you could consistently play at the flex position, or even at the wide receiver 2 if you're in a little bit of a deeper league. And so now you bring in George Pickens, who has a much higher skill set than Brandon Cooks did. And I think with the attention to CeeDee Lamb and with the skill set that George Pickens has, if you go one-on-one with George Pickens because you have to focus so much to CeeDee Lamb, that's going to very much benefit George Pickens. I think Pickens has a lot of room to get 50, 60-yard touchdowns and also work in the red zone and also even work on underneath stuff as well. I think the Cowboys have very quietly grown a very, very strong 1-2 punch at wide receiver between Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. And then on top of all of this, George Pickens goes into a contract year. And so as we've seen in the last couple of years out of players like Jamar Chase, like a wide receiver going into his contract year, you need to produce. You want that big contract at the end of the year. We saw Jamar Chase last year go out and win the – did he win the Triple Crown last year? I think, yeah. Go out and win the Triple Crown last year and then get an absolute bag this summer. And so I'm not expecting a Triple Crown out of George Pickens, but I think he's definitely going to go out there and produce very well as a wide receiver 2. And me, I don't like drafting wide receiver 2s for teams very much as starting wide receivers. I never really like to get guys like T. Higgins or even like Devontae Smith, who have a really good number 1 wide receiver on the other side of the field. And obviously George Pickens has that with CeeDee Lamb right there. But I really trust the talent of George Pickens, and I trust Dak to be able to produce multiple quarterbacks. So that's my take there.
So yeah, I do agree. Like I said, yeah, with me picking Dak, I think George Pickens plays a huge role in that. So in order for Dak to be good, George Pickens has to be good. So I'm on the same brain wavelength as you are. So I'll give you my wide receiver value pick. It's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, Ricky Pearsall, second-year receiver out of the University of Florida. He's being drafted his ADP right now is 92.1, so he's going again late 9th round, 10th round guy, 8th round maybe if you're getting excited about it. But let me make the case for you right now. Well, he's all right. Also, it's wide receiver 40. He's wide receiver 41 off the board. So yeah, let me make the case. So there's no Debo. Obviously, he was shipped out, traded away to the Commanders this offseason. Brandon Ayuk is coming off of a torn ACL from last season and is not expected to be back till like week 6. So there's that. Also, Jawan Jennings is hurt, wanting a new contract, but once he wanted a new contract, his calf became hurt. So, well, I'm sure if he gets a contract, his calf will be magically healed, which is I'm really hoping for. Sounds pretty bad, but yeah, he's back to Ricky Pearsall. He's a first-round talent. He was literally shot in the chest in robbery attempt back last year before the season. So it caused him to miss the first 6 games of the year. And then he came back and then was also missed a couple more games. And then he really came on at the end of the year, had 2 big games at the end of the year. Obviously, the Niners were out of it by then as far as playoffs, but Purdy was finding him, and Purdy liked to throw to him, as well as obviously George Kittle. But he came on super strong at the end. And just quite frankly, they need him this year. Like I said, they don't. There's no Debo. Ayuk's going to be working back from the ACL. There's no. I mean, he's not going to be the same, at least probably this year. It takes a little bit for these guys coming off the ACLs. And Jawan Jennings, yeah, he'll probably be ready for the season because I'm sure he'll get either his money or he'll just want to play to get his money. But other than that, it's just him and Pearsall, Jawan Jennings and Pearsall. Obviously, they have George Kittle, which Purdy likes to throw to, but Pearsall, I think, is going to be very involved in a team that is projected to be very good again because they are going to be playing actually a very weak schedule because of where they finished last year, coming in, I think, 4th place. If not 4th, they finished 3rd in the NFC West. And so they get an easier schedule, and their team is, when healthy, is still going to be pretty good. Obviously, they're going to get Christian McCaffrey back this year. I hope he stays healthy. And if they do, that will just take a lot of pressure away from these wide receivers because everyone will be so focused on Christian McCaffrey. And I think it gives Pearsall a very good chance to, be very good this year. I traded for him in one of my dynasty leagues earlier this offseason, just for this fact that he's a second-year receiver who had a strong end of his rookie year, and the reason he couldn't get on the field earlier was because he was literally shot. So I think I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, and expect he was a first-round talent. So that's my case.
Yeah, and like you said, I can't reiterate enough. He literally got shot in the chest like Labor Day weekend last year, a couple of weeks before the season, and so it's like, of course, he's not going to, like, even when he first came back, you can't expect a rookie who's been shot not that long ago to just come out and dominate. And so we saw, like you were saying, at the end of the season, he produced a lot at the end of the season. And so, yeah, I very much agree with that pick. I tried to trade for him as well this summer in the Dynasty, but the guy who has him won't budge. So we just got a question from Marlon.
Hey, Marlon, how's it going?
He says, hey, man, who should I get as a keeper? Malik Neighbors at the 5th round or Brock Bowers at the 11th round? I'm only considering this because it's harder to find a good wide receiver replacement than a tight end. My opinion of this, I don't know, Quinn, you can give yours afterwards. I think Brock Bowers at the 11th is a crazy good value for a keeper. Right now, Brock Bowers is going in the 2nd or 3rd round. And, yes, you need more wide receivers for your team, obviously, but there is only 3 or 4 really good tight ends, and when you get them, you have a level up over a lot of the guys in your league. Unless, like, the top tight ends of Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, like, those are the 3 guys this year, I think. And then if you look around the rest of the league, you have the edge in every single matchup at tight end. And Brock Bowers is somebody who last year had one of the best rookie seasons from a tight end for fantasy-wise that we've ever seen. And now he adds Geno Smith as his quarterback instead of Aiden O'Connell. And it's like, I think he's poised to just take an even bigger step. And so that value of getting someone who's going in 2 or 3 at 11 is too good to pass up.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think Brock Bowers in the 11th is too good to pass up. It's one of the onesie positions. So, you don't have to worry about drafting another one probably at all. I mean, you can maybe get one really late and with depending on how, deep your bench is in the 14th or 13th or 14th round. But I mean, I see your other comment there. It says you're looking at Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland at tight end to replace him. I mean, I would be okay with, Tyler Warren picking him up in where he's going. Actually, spoiler alert, he's going to be my my value at tight end. But I would just keep the Malik Neighbors, obviously. Yeah, he's going to be going back and forth probably between Russ Wilson. The Giants have a super tough schedule this year. Very, very difficult schedule. And yeah, Malik Neighbors, he's going to be great. And the 5th round's good as well. Obviously, very good value. But I think getting one of those onesie positions out of the way and just not having to worry about that because it's so hard to hit on those for fantasy, I think that is probably your best bet. But honestly, you could make a case for Malik Neighbors, but I would agree with Kadin that Geno Smith's there now in Las Vegas. Ashton Genty's there, so yeah, they're going to be able to, hopefully be a better team, which maybe you don't want that if you're Brock Bowers because he got force-fed so much, but he's still an unreal talent. I mean, he's going to be probably their leading receiver at the end of the year from the tight end position again. I mean, Jacoby Myers is fine, but then they just have a couple rookies they drafted. I mean, Geno Smith is going to look early and often to that guy because he's a freak, and they're going to get him the ball. So I just think with the 11th round, you don't have to worry about, trying to hit on one of these rookie tight ends. Since it is such a tough, position to hit, if you got a sure thing in Bowers, I would just hit it because there's so many receivers you can hit. Yeah, Neighbors is good, but you can find so many receivers just as good in those early rounds as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, while we're talking a little bit about rookie tight ends, do you want to go ahead and give your tight end first?
Yeah. Let me give you my rookie tight end. It's Tyler Warren going at the average draft position of 96.5. So, yeah, another 9th, 10th round pick. This is going to probably sound contradicting now that I was just hyping up Brock Bowers. But Brock Bowers he's a special talent. It's, can't miss cut type of guy. Tyler Warren, obviously the reason he's going as tight end 10 off the board, and people are getting a little hot and bothered about him and kind of, seeing the similarities between Bowers and Warren as far as going into this year. The Colts are going to be pretty bad. Most likely they have Daniel Jones, not a good quarterback, but obviously it didn't matter for Brock Bowers having Aiden O'Connell and all the other guys they had last year, Gardner Minshew and whatnot. So, I think that it's just rookie tight ends recently have been really, really good. And it hasn't really mattered if they're on a good team like Laporta was 2 years ago, or if they're on a bad team like Bowers is, or if these guys are athletic freaks, and Warren is an athletic freak as well. He has the draft capital. He was picked 14th overall this year by the Colts. And I just think no QB, no problem for these guys. But if they do have a QB like Brock Bowers does now, even better, right? So you're just taking – it's kind of, you are taking a shot on Tyler Warren. But, I think it's with the Colts, they'll probably be down a lot, and I think he could rack up a lot of points similar to Brock Bowers. I don't know if he can finish a tight end 1 like Bowers, just because of Brock Bowers. But yeah, I think he's definitely going to be he's going to finish way higher than he's being drafted at right now. I mean, I can see him finishing as high as, tight end 5 on the year. Anywhere from 5 to 10, I think he's probably, good for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that tight end position is so hard. Like we were talking about, there's maybe 3 guys that are surefire, like they're going to be the top 3, and then the rest is like, you're just trying to hit on one and try to be in that 4, 5, 6 range because like it's such a dart throw when it comes to tight ends unless you get one of the top guys. So I actually, kind of similar to Dak, Tyler Warren was my tight end sleeper as well, and then I had to pivot. So I agree with everything you said there. Very lack of receivers there. I'm not really afraid of Michael Pittman or Josh Downs or Adonai Mitchell eating into his targets too much. So I agree with you there. So I had to pivot, and I moved to Evan Ingram, who switched teams this offseason.
That's who I had before I had Tyler Warren.
Really? Oh, that's perfect. So, yeah, Evan Ingram, the tight end for the Denver Broncos, he goes to Denver, leaves Jacksonville, and he goes to a wide receiver room that is also not – the wide receiver room in Denver is not very strong. They got Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant they drafted this year, but not the strongest of wide receiver rooms. And he goes and he joins Bo Nix, who had a very solid rookie season. I was very surprised last year by his rookie year. So he goes into year 2, and I think Bo Nix is poised for another good season and maybe even a step up from last year. And a young quarterback's best friend is their big tight end. And Evan Ingram is a lot more of a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. He can still block, but when he's on the field to catch the ball and run. He's built like a receiver. He has speed like a receiver, and I think that's how they're going to use him. We've seen him play a little bit in the preseason. They gave him a little like slant crosser, and he took it 60 yards down the field. And so we see that speed already on display in Denver, and we see him being worked into the plays as well. I think bringing into that offense, bringing him into an offense with Sean Payton. We've seen Sean Payton sustain tight ends before in New Orleans, and I think that we see them continue to just feed the tight end, and Evan Ingram is a major step up from what they had at the tight end last year. Who'd they have last year? Greg Dulich and some they're tight ends you can't really even name from the previous year. So this is the best tight end I feel like Denver's had in a while. And for a young quarterback like Bo Nix, this is a young quarterback's best friend. And this is another one of those guys that you can get later in the draft that can maybe hit for a 5-6, end up as a 5, 6, or 7 tight end on the year. So
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. He was my pick before I quickly went to Tyler Warren. But Evan Ingram, I think he can be very good this year. So I'm with you.
Sweet. All right, now we're going to jump into a harsher little time here. We're going to talk about players that we're going to stay away from. So do you want to go ahead and talk about the quarterback that you think we should stay away from?
Yeah, and so I'll preface all these by saying I think these aren't – it's not – when I pick these people, it's not that they're terrible players. It's that I think I don't really like their scenarios that they're in, their situations, or certain aspects about their game. So not that they're going to be terrible or just be, the worst player of all time. But keep that in mind. But especially once I get to my running back and wide receiver. But my quarterback that I chose is actually Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. His ADP is actually going similar to all these guys that we were just talking about, is also pick number 89. But honestly, what I've seen the last few years from Kyler Murray, I took him his first few years when he was with Cliff Kingsbury in the air raid offense. He's not that same player anymore. He's more of a game manager. The Cardinals want to ground and pound the ball to James Conner and probably Trey Benson more this year. And they want to throw, and when they do throw, they have Marv, and you're hoping Marv can take a huge step this year. They have Trey McBride, but Kyler Murray is not throwing for, 35, 40-plus touchdowns anymore. But yeah, you have the rushing baseline that might help you out, but also he's so hot and cold with the running. He won't commit to it. He's not like a Lamar Jackson. He's more just kind of scrambling to get away from people because he doesn't want to get hit, as opposed to just scrambling to get those extra yards. So I'm staying away from Kyler Murray personally. Some people have him higher up, and maybe he finishes as a low end QB1, but I think it's going to be a bumpy ride, and it's not a ride you're not going to really enjoy every week to have him as your starting quarterback.
Yeah. Kyler Murray last year burned a lot of people, and people are kind of going back for him this year for more. So I agree with that one. For me, this was probably the hardest decision for me. I was looking a lot, and I was like, I'm struggling to find a quarterback. Like, obviously, I'm not in love with every quarterback, but I'm trying to find a quarterback that is drafted high enough to be somebody who I try to stay away from. Like, one of the guys that I look at is Matthew Stafford, but Matthew Stafford's going very late in drafts, if at all. And so I tried to look at someone who was a little bit higher up, and the quarterback I got was Patrick Mahomes. He obviously last year did not have the fantasy season that we have come to expect out of Patrick Mahomes, but yet he's still being drafted this year as the quarterback 5 or 6. And yes, he's getting Rashee Rice back for the first month of the season, and then he has He's getting another we imagine he's going to be suspended after the first month of the season, and then we imagine he'll be out for the rest of the fantasy season. But who knows at this point? But we saw the Chiefs last year. They really relied on their defense and running the football, and that hurt Mahomes. He didn't play like the Patrick Mahomes football we've come to expect. He did in the fact that when it mattered at the end of the game, he'd drive them down and they kick a field goal, or they drive them down and they score a touchdown. But he wasn't out here throwing for 500 yards a game or 400 yards a game. He was just doing what he had to do. He's still a top 2, top 1, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. But for fantasy purposes, they are trying to ground the football. They are trying to play good defense, and that's what they've done, honestly, for the past couple of seasons. Travis Kelce is just he's not getting any younger. And I do think Xavier Worthy is going to take a step up, and I think, honestly, the Super Bowl loss last year may have helped the Chiefs. I think that they'll come back with a little bit more of a fire this year, and a little bit more ready to go. So that's why I'm a little bit wary on this one. But at the place where he's going right now, I would not be comfortable drafting Mahomes for how expensive you have to pay, or how high of a draft pick you have to spend on him.
Yeah, I can see that very easily. We'll also see if maybe, they switch it around since the Super Bowl loss. Maybe they're going to go back to airing it out a little bit more. We'll find out. But, yeah, if he plays like he did last year, there's no chance I'm taking him where he's being drafted right now. So,
Sweet. All right, let's hear your running back stay away from.
All right, I'm going to give you my running back that I'm trying to stay away from. And, again, please don't hear what I'm not saying. That I don't think that this player is a bad player, but I am actually trying to stay away from Ashton Genty, the Las Vegas Raiders running back, which might be a shock to some people, but I think you're drafting him at his ceiling. I don't think there's much room for him to finish higher than what you're drafting him. I mean, I think, Las Vegas probably still projects as an average team at best. I mean, Geno Smith's not like, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, so he's not going to come in and just lift them to an AFC West title, especially in a stacked division like the AFC West with the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs, all playoff teams last year. And so I think, it might be, you might still be happy with, he might be getting you 10 points a week, and, maybe he'll get an extra touchdown here or there, so he'll get you 20 a couple of weeks. But I think where he's being drafted, I think it's a lot like Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. I'm calling him Marv 2.0. And yeah, if you drafted Marvin Harrison last year, he didn't have a bad season necessarily as a rookie wide receiver in the NFL, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, but you were very upset for fantasy football sakes for where you drafted him at the end of the first, early second. And that's exactly where Ashton Genty is going this year, in a very similar situation. Expected to be the guy, and he will be, but it might not be as smooth sailing right off the gate, and I doubt he finishes. I mean, he's not finishing top. I don't think he's going to crack the top 3 as far as running backs. I mean, maybe he does if there's a ton of injuries, but if everyone's on the field, I don't know if he can get much higher than where he's being drafted, which is probably, I didn't even look it up, but it's probably RB 6 or 7, maybe 8. So, I mean, he could finish as a, late RB1, but I think he's more poised to probably finish as a closer to a solid RB2, and that's not what you want with your first pick, especially with the running back position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I very similar, I think, like you said, to last year's situation with Marvin Harrison. Even looking at like the situation between Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, yes, they were still being drafted pretty high, at least Malik Neighbors was, but you were a lot happier if you got one of those rookie wide receivers a little bit later than if you spent super high on Marvin Harrison last year. And I think you can do a very similar thing this year if you wait just a little bit and get Omarion Hampton or get Travion Henderson instead of spending really high capital and getting Ashton Genty right there. So yeah. Similar to you, this is a very skilled player. This is a very good player. But at where he's going with the risk that it takes, I'm not trying to draft this guy. My player is Devon Achane out of Miami. We already saw he's injured right now. He's dealing with the exact same calf injury as Christian McCaffrey did last season. And if you're new to football, Christian McCaffrey was pretty much held out of the entire season last year and burned almost everybody who drafted him at the 101 or 102 or wherever they got him last year. And so that already scares me. They said at first that it was just a little bit of a light tissue issue, and then they find out that it's a calf issue. And now I even heard something this past week that said he might miss the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. And so the reports just keep getting worse and worse. But regardless of if he is healthy at the beginning of the season or not, he is so much reliant on not just his own health, but also the health of his quarterback. As we've seen in the previous years, when Tua's out there, he plays great. He's amazing. But then when Tua's injured, he's pitiful. He is one of, like, he's unstartable almost the weeks that Tua's not out there. And Tua's not one of the quarterbacks. He's not the most durable guy. Tua's had his injuries. He gets banged up a decent amount. And Devon Achane himself isn't the biggest and toughest guy. So not only do you have to rely on the health of Devon Achane, but you also have to rely on the health of Tua. So that's two guys who are not the strongest, not the healthiest guys ever to remain healthy. And we've already seen the Dolphins are trying to get more guys. The Dolphins were actively trying to get Brian Robinson this past week, but he ended up going to San Francisco. The Dolphins they're still actively looking for running back help to probably be there behind Devon Achane. I don't know if that means they're expecting him to miss time or they want that assurance, because Devon Achane is someone who's seen get injured before, and when Tua's not there, he's not somebody that you want to be drafting anywhere near the first round. Like, I had Devon Achane last year in my one league when he was with Tua, he was putting up 20 points a week consistently. He was amazing. But then when Tua was gone, it was like I can't play him this week because he's going to go out there, and so much of his work is through checkdowns and through screens and through the passing game to Tua. But for some reason, when they have a backup quarterback in there, they just can't get the ball to Achane, and he's not a good runner of the football. He can catch and make people miss once he gets space. But my guy is Devon Achane because he's going super duper high as well.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. The injury is what is the most concerning. So I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Our final stay away from guys. We're not doing tight ends. So who are you staying away from at the wide receiver position?
All right. I'm staying away from Ladd McConkey, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. I love this guy. I think he's a really good football player. I just wish he wasn't being drafted so high. He's being drafted right now as a wide receiver 11 off the board. 24th overall is his ADP. And that's pretty expensive for a guy who, and for a team that I think actually wants to run the ball more than they did last year. If you remember, they had J.K. Dobbins, they had Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards didn't work. J.K. Dobbins was on one leg, essentially, one leg J.K. And then when he got hurt, they could not run the ball. So they realized they had to throw the ball, and Ladd McConkey was their best receiver because all they had other than that was Josh Palmer and Quinton Johnston, right? So Ladd McConkey did really well for fantasy last year, exceeded way expectations, especially because he was going in the 9th, 10th round last year. This year I think you are drafting him at his ceiling, all right, and that's the big reason why I'm staying away. They literally just added Keenan Allen back, which you can say what you want about Keenan, but he literally took targets away from Roma Dunze last year in Chicago. He was one of Caleb Williams' favorite targets, and he has a rapport with Justin Herbert, years and years of throwing the ball to him. So not only did they do that, they added Omarion Hampton in the first round, signaling they want to run the ball more, and they needed a running back to do that, and that will be him. They also added Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, who is a very good wide receiver, and now because of Keenan, he's being thrown down the depth chart. So there's just a ton of guys now that are going to be eating up some of those passes. They still don't really have a great tight end. But yeah, I just think you're drafting him at a ceiling, so I'm staying away personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I hope Keenan Allen can eat into that because I was stuck with Keenan Allen in my dynasty leagues. Nobody really wants to trade for him because he's 75 years old. But when I saw he went back to LA, I was like, okay, it can be a little bit something this year at least. So yeah. My stay away from wide receiver. My receiver is Devontae Adams of the Rams. So he goes into it, and we've seen Davante Adams the last couple of years play really good as a wide receiver too. He was 1A, 1B last year with Garrett Wilson, and he played phenomenal. He was putting up such great numbers. But I'm really worried about him going to the Rams right now not because of his talent, not because of Puka's talent. Well, Puka a little bit, but because of Matthew Stafford's health. We've kind of similar to Devon Achane. Matthew Stafford has been dealing with a really bad back injury a lot of training camp, and they're saying it's getting better. He's looking a little bit better right now, but Matthew Stafford is really getting up there in age, and a back injury on top of all of that is one that affects his ability to throw the ball. A back is I'm not a quarterback, but I imagine a back is quite important when you want to throw, especially a deeper pass. But then going into the season, Matthew Stafford is not a mobile quarterback. He isn't somebody who's a great escaper. They don't have the greatest O-line. And so I think a hard sack at one point in the game can put Stafford out for a couple of weeks again. And then if Stafford's there and they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo as their backup quarterback, we've seen Davante Adams with Jimmy Garoppolo before, and he absolutely hated it, and he almost killed Davante Adams. And we know Davante Adams' opinion on Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think if Stafford is there, then he'd be a really good wide receiver too for the team. He'd be a really good wide receiver to draft. But I am not confident at all in thinking that Matthew Stafford is going to play even half of the season this year. I really have doubts about Matthew Stafford's health. And so with that, I'm scared to draft Davante Adams. And then with all of that on top, if they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, Puka is going to be the wide receiver one. I know Puka's came out and said that Davante's the one, but Puka's young. Puka's been in the offense for years. Puka at this point in his career is a little bit better than Davante Adams. And Puka's also going in to a contract year. So he's going to be also working to get that next contract and taking targets away from Davante. If everyone's healthy, I think that Davante and Puka will both be great. But I am betting that Matthew Stafford is not going to stay healthy. And because of that, I'm a little bit scared of Jimmy Garoppolo supplying two good wide receivers. I think he can supply one, but I'm a little bit scared with what he do with Davante Adams.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it all depends on Matthew Stafford's health. If he's healthy, Adams could be a great pick, but if he's bad, yeah, we all saw why Jimmy G left Las Vegas last year and went to his buddy Aaron because he just didn't want to die from all these hospital balls that Jimmy Garoppolo kept throwing him. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, and that is all of our sleepers and values and players that we think you should stay away from. Austin just unfortunately is not back. So we're going to get ready to go into our final little segment here, and we will be with you guys shortly.
Well, I am going to be giving you my can't miss 100% player that you should be looking to draft in your drafts this season. I'm calling it my Mr. Jaden Daniels, or my gut guy, G-U-T, gut guy. And the reason I'm calling him my Mr. Jaden Daniels is because last year I'm in a couple dynasty leagues and a one redraft league. And in my dynasty leagues, I did not take Jaden Daniels, but in my redraft, I did. And all through preseason, I was just convinced. And I mean, before the season, I was convinced once I saw where he went. And watching some tape of Jaden Daniels, I was like, this guy is going to be a stud. I need to get this guy. I passed him up in both dynasty rookie drafts. And I was really kicking myself once the season came. So in redraft, I made sure I got him, took him around, maybe even early, just because I knew he was going to help me win a fantasy championship. And he did. I won a fantasy championship in that league. And this guy this year for the Mr. Jaden Daniels Award is Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A little behind the curtains, I'm a huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, but that's not the reason I'm picking him. I'm picking Emeka Egbuka because this guy has all the talent in the world, and he's being drafted similar to like a Ladd McConkey or Brian Thomas last year. He's being mispriced. So let me break it down for you. His ADP right now is 98.2, so he's going late 9th round, 10th round pick. But if you want him, I guarantee you that's on Sleeper's ADP, but I guarantee you his real ADP is probably in the 7th, 8th, or 7th round because he is shooting up. If you've been paying attention to anything in the preseason, he is going, not that he's playing a ton in the preseason, but when he's played, he's shown a lot. And there's a ton of buzz out of the Buccaneers training camps that this guy is the real deal. They're calling him, essentially Chris Godwin Jr. already. Just because he's so sure-handed, he's good at blocking. They're very similar size, great hands. So if you want him, I'm guaranteed you're going to have to take him maybe a little higher, especially if you play in a Bucks league like I do in my home league. So you might say, well, Quinton, they have Mike Evans, they have Chris Godwin. Don't you remember Jalen McMillan from last year? Yes, I do remember all those players very well. Chris Godwin is coming off of a dislocated ankle and had a second surgery. So they said he's not going to be on the PUP, but he's not going to be playing till October, they already said. Mike Evans is healthy, looking really good. Outside of Emeka Egbuka, Mike Evans, they said, has had the best camp so far for the Bucks, which is exciting for the Bucks because he's, a 32-year-old receiver. It still looks really good. And then Jalen McMillan was going to be a big part of the offense. Well, he got hurt in the second preseason game. I was there in person at the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and I saw Jalen McMillan take that flip, and I was just hoping he was okay. And he is okay, but he's going to be missing some time. They already put him on the IR, and they said realistically he probably won't be back till week 8 or 9. So that takes 2 receivers out. The Bucks run a 3 wide receiver base offense. So Jalen, what maybe looked like a loaded room to begin with, is now, because of injuries, and we knew Chris Godwin was always working back from the dislocated ankle, but now with Jalen McMillan hurt, they are getting really thin, really quick. And so Emeka Egbuka, they already said, can play all 3 wide receiver spots. They said that like the 3rd or 4th day at camp. This guy is just a stud. And if you're an Ohio State football fan, you should know this guy dominated at Ohio State. Literally set the record for most receptions as an Ohio State player. Sure, maybe that's because he stayed the longest, but remember, he was in the same room as Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Chris Olave. Do you guys know any of those guys' names? Yeah, and he still dominated and demanded targets because the guy is just always open. He's got a great head on his shoulders. Just because Baker has got a huge confidence in him already. Whenever he talks about the offseason, he just talks about how they got Emeka Egbuka. And maybe it didn't seem like a need for the Bucks at the time, but it's a huge need now, and they are thanking their lucky stars they took him instead of taking someone else, because if they think they have Super Bowl aspirations, he's going to have to play a huge part. I believe personally, I drafted him I have him in both my dynasty leagues because, like I said, with the Jaden Daniels thing, I just had this gut feeling that this guy he's going to be not acquirable next year. And if you try to acquire Jaden Daniels in dynasty this year, good luck. You're not going to be able to do it. And I think it's going to be the same thing for Emeka Egbuka next year. So I just traded for him before the week 2 preseason game in one league. I had to give up a 1st-round pick and Mike Evans, which I love Mike, but I had to swap him, and then I got Emeka Egbuka back. And then I also drafted him in a rookie startup because even though I didn't really need him, I know he's going to be super involved, not only next year, but for sure now this year. And I think he's going to finish. I think he can finish as a wide receiver 2, anywhere from 15 maybe to 20 as far as wide receiver overall. And where he's being drafted right now, I mean, that's a huge value, and that can help win you leagues. So you will I guarantee you will not be able to draft Emeka Egbuka in the 9th or 10th round next year. There's no way he's going to put the world on notice, and I think he's just going to be a stud.
I agree. I agree with that very much. So I almost put Emeka Egbuka as one of my sleeper wide receivers during the episode.
Yeah, so it's not really good. It's not really a kept secret anymore. It's pretty out there. But I was having all these thoughts, right after the draft, going into May, June. I was like, I just think this guy's going to be a stud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and last year I drafted Jaden Daniels I traded for Jaden Daniels actually in our dynasty league before the season, because of your gut feeling and your gut reaction, and so I trust that gut feeling. Maybe Austin actually is the owner of Emeka Egbuka in our dynasty league, and so maybe if Austin just got off the call and didn't hear any of this, maybe I'll try to slide him a pick or two and try to get Emeka Egbuka before the season starts. So
because next year I'm telling you it's going to be too late. You'll have to give up 3 firsts and your 2 best players, and you're not gonna want to do that. But
right, yeah. Awesome. Well, that is going to be it for this episode, for the first episode of season 4, actually, of K&A football. Hopefully, this was some help to some of you guys. Hopefully, you took some notes for your upcoming drafts. Hopefully, if you're in a draft with myself, Quinton, Austin, or any of us, hopefully you aren't listening. Hopefully, you do the opposite of everything we said. But yeah, thank you so much, Quinton, for being here. It was a lot of fun, and I hope to have you on sometime again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, man. All right. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys next time.